Good morning, children. Welcome back to the third session of the lesson Deep Water. Before that, let us have a deep recap of what you have already learned. Dear children, it is all about William Douglas' childhood experience of fear of water. There are two examples that he highlights. One is the California incident, where he was knocked down by the waves and he was almost drowned, and it was a matter of laughter for the father, whereas for the little child it was a matter of great fear. The second incident was when he was at the YMCA swimming pool. A bruiser boy, a bully, came and tossed him into water for a fun. But it was again a great panic for the child, because he started drowning, and he had certain strategies to come out, but all the three times he failed. And now let us continue with the page number 27, okay, in the middle of the page. The next I remember was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. The boy that threw me in, was saying, "But I was only fooling." Someone said, "The kid nearly died. Be all right now. Let us carry him to the locker room." Okay. So after some time, we have come across that the boy was in a complete oblivion. Oblivion, it is all forgetfulness, right? So actually the boy could not even think. He was in a stupor because of the fear. And after some time, when he got the conscience back, he could see that he was lying on his stomach. The next I remember was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. The chap that threw me in was saying, "But I was only fooling." Someone said, "The kid nearly died. Be all right now. Let us carry him to the locker room." You know what a locker room is? Where you keep your dress when you go to the swimming pool. Every swimming pool will have a locker room, right? That's it. Now, second paragraph. The next paragraph. Several hours later, I walked home. I was weak and trembling. After a few hours, he started his journey back to his home. By then, he was very weak and trembling, shivering. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. I could not eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion, here exertion means exerting of energy, means tiring. Slightest tiring upset me, making me wobbly. Wobbly means shaky in the knees and sick to my stomach. So here will be a question: what is the after effect of drowning in the what you call YMCA pool? So after several hours, still he was weak and trembling. He could not enjoy that day food, and the fear was haunting, troubling him, and slightest memory would keep him upset, and also his knees would become wobbly. Okay, wobbly here means unstable or shaky. Is it clear? Yeah. Now next paragraph. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. So he stopped going to the pool. He stopped going to any water body. Why? Because of the fear. And okay, by the way, here are three questions. What is the misadventure that William Douglas speak about? We discussed the other day. What were the series of emotion and fears that Douglas experienced when he was thrown into the pool? What plans did he make to come to the surface? Already discussed. How did this experience affect him? This is what we are now discussing. What is the effect of that incident? He could not enjoy food. He had the trembling sense, or he was very weak, and his knees became shaky, wobbly, unstable, could not stand properly, and he felt sickness in his stomach. Okay, dear children, remember all these points. And after that incident, he stopped going to any water body or to the pool. A few years later, when I came to know the waters of the cascades, waterfalls, I wanted to get into them, and whenever I did, whether I was wading, means walking through the water, the Titan, or bumping river, or bathing in warm lake of the Got rocks, the terror that had ceased caught me in the pool would come back. It would take possession of me completely. My legs would become paralyzed, means unable to move. Icy horror would grab my heart. Okay, so this is the problem. Now he has grown up. He's a grown up man, but the problem is the old fear of YMCA incident sees him badly, that would haunt him badly. His legs would become paralyzed. He could not enjoy swimming. He could not enjoy wading through certain river or lakes. And what would happen? The old terror would seize him. This handicap stayed with me as the years rolled by in canoes. Canoes, you know, a small boat type thing. Canoes, small boats. Okay, canoes on marine lakes, fishing for landlocked salmon. What do you mean salmon? A kind of fish. Okay, so he wanted to enjoy fishing really, but the fear of water would spoil it. Bass fishing, another fish. Bass fishing in New Hampshire, trout fishing, another fish on the Deschutes and Metallus in Oregon, fishing for salmon on the Columbia, at Bumping Lake in the Cascades. Wherever I went, the haunting fear of the water followed me. It ruined my fishing trips, deprived me of the joy of canoeing, boating, and swimming. So, what is the after effect of that incident? And actually, the fear that haunted him badly when he went for canoeing, when he went for boating, when he went for fishing, when he went for swimming. So that's a problem for him now. So the total fear is seizing him like anything. It is haunting him like anything. So let us see what is happening with the next paragraph. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grip. And he wanted to forget about this incident. He wanted to get rid of this incident. Okay, but it was not happening. Finally, one October, author decided to get an instructor and learn to swim. So that was the bold decision that he took. What was the bold decision that he took? Hiring an instructor. For what? To learn to swim. I went to a pool and practiced 5 days a week, an hour each day. Out of 7 days a week, he would practice it for 5 days, 1 hour each day. The instructor put a belt around the author. A rope attached to the belt went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. So you can understand, the instructor made a rope, made use of a rope that is attached to the belt and to a pulley, you know, to draw water we use pulley, like that. He is attached to a rope connecting to a pulley, and he would control the rope, and who would swim? Author would swim. He held on to the end of the rope, and we went back and forth across the pool, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of the panic seized me. Each time the instructor relaxed his hold on the rope and I went under, some of the old terror returned and my leg froze. Okay, while learning to swim, when the instructor relaxed the hold of the rope, he would go under the water and all the fear or terror of drowning would affect him and his legs would become frozen. It was 3 months before the tension began to reduce. Slack here stands for becoming less. Okay children, slack becoming less. Slack means becoming less. Okay, slack, underline here. Slack means becoming less. Then he taught me to put my face under water and exhale. What is exhale? Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale means to take the breath in, exhale means to send the breath out. Okay, and to raise my nose and inhale. I repeated the exercise hundreds of times, but bit by bit I shed part of the panic, the fear that seized him when his head went underwater. Now the fear is disappearing now. How? The instructor instructed him to breathe or to inhale from outside and exhale inside the water. Then while doing that exercise, he could remove the fear. Next, he held me at the side of the pool and had me kick with my legs. For weeks I did just that. At first my legs refused to work, but they gradually, slowly relaxed, and finally I could command them. Actually, author has learned to command his legs. Actually, the leg would go frozen out of fear. Now he is able to give command to his legs. Thus, piece by piece, he built a swimmer. Who built a swimmer? The instructor built a swimmer out of Douglas, and when he had perfected each piece, he put them together into an integrated hull, connected hull. In April, he said, now you can swim, dive off and swim the length of the pool, crawl stroke. There are different stroke, butterfly stroke, crawl stroke, the style of swimming. Okay, so by April he was complete in swimming. Actually, it started in the month of October, November, December, January, February, March, April, like some 6-7 months they took for learning, and I did. The instructor was finished. Actually, finally, who did? Douglas did, and who finished? Instructor finished. That means instructor completed his task of teaching Douglas how to swim, and Douglas learned how to swim now. But I was not finished. But still, something incomplete sense came to the mind of the Douglas, author. But I was not finished. I still wondered if I would be terror stricken when I was alone in the pool. I tried it. I swam the length up and down. Tiny vestiges. What is vestiges? Remaining thing. Okay. What is that? Yes, remaining thing, vestiges. Tiny vestiges means here signs. Tiny signs of the old terror would return. But now I could frown and say to them, to the terror, trying to scare me, well, here is to you, look, and off I would go for another length of the pool. Actually, while he was practicing to swim in the lake alone, the old fear would come and attack him. Then he would question the fear, trying to scare me, means trying to terrorize me, you, and he would try to swim to the length of the pool. That was the practice. Now, this went on until July, but I was still not satisfied. I was not sure that the terror had left, so I went to lake. Okay, went forth in New Hampshire, dived off a dock at Triggs Island, and swam 2 miles across the lake to the swam at Island. I swam the crawl, breaststroke. I told you different style of swimming is there. Swam the crawl style, crawling like a reptile crawling. Okay, breaststroke. You might have seen while you watch swimming competition, right? breaststroke, side stroke, and backstroke. Only once did the terror return. When I was in the middle of the lake, I put my face under the and saw nothing but the bottomless water. Bottomless, deep water he could see. When he tried to look through the water from the middle of the lake, he could see nothing but bottomless water. The old sensation returned, the old fear returned in miniature, in small form. Miniature means in small form. Okay, in small form. Then what happened? And he laughed and said, "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me?" I fled. Flee, fled. To run away. Flee means to run away. It fled. What fled? What ran away? The terror fled, and I swam on. Means author continued his swimming. So children, now even after getting instructed or even after getting practiced to swim, he was incomplete. Who was incomplete? Author. So he tried swimming in different lakes with a different style, but when he was in the middle of the lake, sometime the old fear would catch him. Then he would question, he would laugh at the terror. "Well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do with me?" And he would continue swimming. And we have another 3 paragraphs. Shall we continue? I think you are not bored. Yeah, let us continue. Yet I had residual doubts. What do you mean by residual doubts? I think residual, remaining. Something that is remaining is called residual doubts. What was the remaining doubts? At my first opportunity, I hurried west, went up to the Titan, to Cornard Meadows. All of you remember all these names. At the time of examination, you have to mention at least a few lakes. Up the Conrad Creek trail to the Mead Glacier, and camped in the high meadow by the side of the warm lake. The next morning I stripped. What is stripped? Removed the cloth, dived into the lake and swam across to the other shore and back. So he would make a rush towards the other side of the shore, just as Duke Corcoran used to do. Duke Corcoran, is a famous swimmer. I shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. I had conquered my fear of water. So all of you underline this sentence. Who had conquered the fear of water? Douglas. Douglas, while practicing to swim to and fro of the lake, finally conquered the fear. Even when he shouted, it gave an echoing effect. Okay, the experience had a deep meaning for me. Actually, this experience gave Douglas much deeper meaning, as only those who have non-stark, complete terror and conquered it can appreciate. In death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, "All we have to fear is fear itself." Dear children, underline this famous quote from Roosevelt. What did he say? All we have to fear is fear itself, because I had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that fear of it can produce. The will to live somehow grew in intensity. Actually, there was a will. If there is a saying, if there is a will, there is a way. The will to live somehow grew in intensity, in strength. At last I felt released, free to walk the trails and climb the peaks and to brush aside fear. Now Douglas is able to conquer the fear of terror, fear of water. Now he is much relaxed, and now he can walk the trails, no problem. Even if there is water beyond, there is no fear. He can climb the peak, because even if you fall from the peak into water, he can swim. The confidence has boosted like anything. Case of Douglas, so he conquered. So dear children, you have another 3 questions here. Why was Douglas determined to get over his fear of water? Because he was unable to enjoy fishing, unable to enjoy canoeing, unable to enjoy boating. It is already mentioned. How did the instructor build a swimmer out of Douglas? 5 days in a week, 1 hour per day, and using a pulley and a rope, he learned how to swim. How did Douglas make sure that he conquered the old terror? By practicing to swim in different lakes with a different style of swimming, he conquered it. All these questions are discussed. Now, dear children, go through the text very properly, make a loud reading till you get familiarized with the text. Keep on reading and also write down all the question answers, and the link is already given, NCERT link is already given for your ready reference. So let us make a brief and brief recall of what you have already learned. Dear children, it is all about the fear developed by Douglas and the two incidents that we have already discussed, and how the instructor made a swimmer out of Douglas. Okay, and finally, even after learning to swim, he continued to practice it in different lakes, because sometimes the old terror would attack him, and he would question the terror, he would talk to terror, and finally he highlights the famous quote from Roosevelt. What is the famous quote from Roosevelt? He said, "All we have to fear is fear itself." So that is the end of the lesson, dear children, and I hope all of you understood what the lesson is all about, and this kind of fear would be there with you as well. Try to overcome such fear if there is a fear. There are people, they cannot even make use of what you call lift, lift. They will have fear of getting locked in the lift if our failure is there, something like that. So there are many types of phobia. Okay, so try to overcome it and find pleasure in it. This is a big message from William Douglas, and how he overcame the fear of water or hydrophobia. So children, that is the end of the lesson. Bye bye.